this one I think is really important, especially the flood thing. I remember last time the flood came through and took out Rio Road area. Everybody thought there was never going to be rain again, and we think that now.
Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor, former Republican and mayor of Carmel City, made an unexpected visit to the Hope Haven homeless shelter. Known for his tough on-screen presence and his philanthropic heart, Eastwood brought something else that day: a genuine purpose. His surprise visit wasn't just for clout. It was the start of a transformation, changing lives in ways no one could have foreseen. What did Clint Eastwood do for the homeless shelter? Join us as we explore what Clint Eastwood did for the homeless shelter that would change lives forever.
I sometimes think when I was a little kid, and I used to hang out with my grandfather, who was in his 90s, and I thought, Jesus, who the hell would want to live this long?
The surprising visit. Hope Haven Shelter stood very different on the outskirts of a city where tall buildings stretched skyward and luxury cars lined the streets. Situated between warehouses and neglected lots, the shelter's faded sign had seen better days, and its cracked windows and peeling paint told stories of countless struggles. Yet, within these worn walls, a community thrived, built on the resilience of its residents and the dedication of a small, tireless staff. The shelter's residents each day began with an unspoken gratitude for having a roof over their heads, however humble it might be. From families who had lost their homes to single individuals escaping difficult pasts, Hope Haven served as a lifeline. Life inside was a bunch of shared experiences. Each person had their own journey, and within the shelter they found solidarity among others who had faced similar battles. However, they had no idea things were about to take a change. On a lively, overcast morning, the usual routine was interrupted by an unfamiliar SUV pulling up to the shelter. It wasn't rare to see volunteers or community members stopping by, but this vehicle exuded an air of subtle elegance. When the door opened, Clint Eastwood, a Hollywood icon, stepped out. His presence was unmistakable, even among those who weren't familiar. For a moment, the shelter staff and residents alike were stunned, their usual tasks forgotten as they processed the sight before them. Talking of the staff at Hope Haven weren't just employees. They are lifelines themselves. They worked long hours, offering support to anyone in need. Whether it was through distributing meals, organizing donations, or simply being there to listen. Despite the shelter's limited resources and ever-growing needs, the staff provided as much as they could. They navigated the unique challenges that came with each resident's story. Clint Eastwood, the man known for his on-screen toughness and off-screen integrity, was standing at the entrance of Hope Haven. He wasn't accompanied by a media crew or publicists, just a few team members who helped him carry bags filled with supplies. There was no spectacle, just a quiet arrival, as though he was simply visiting friends. Clint began with a simple, respectful gesture. He greeted each resident and staff member personally, extending a handshake and a warm smile. He moved around the shelter with an ease that surprised many. Here was a man who had stood in front of cameras all his life, now listening intently to the stories of people who often went unheard. Among the residents, Clint met a veteran who, like himself, had seen more than his fair share of life's hardships. The man, who had once served in the army and now lived in the shelter due to a series of misfortunes, shared his story with Clint, surprised by how genuinely the actor listened. Clint nodded, sharing his own reflections on resilience and the importance of support networks, and promised to help ensure veterans like him received the care they deserved. He also spent time with a young family too, a mother and her 2 children who had recently arrived at the shelter after losing their home. They spoke about the challenges of trying to give the kids a sense of normalcy amid the instability. Clint offered words of encouragement and spent a few moments with the children. He made them laugh with lighthearted jokes and stories about the animals on his ranch. His presence lifted their spirits, giving them a rare glimpse of hope. Clint's tour through the shelter brought him face to face with its daily challenges. He saw the worn-out furniture, the thin blankets that did little to ward off the winter cold, and the kitchen, where meals were prepared with whatever the shelter could manage to source. The drafty windows rattled slightly in the breeze, and he noticed that the heating system was barely functioning, a fact confirmed by one of the staff members who explained the struggles of maintaining a shelter with minimal funding. Moved by what he saw, Clint felt touched to do more than just listen. He turned to his team and began discussing ways to support the shelter financially and structurally. With a few quick calls, he arranged for a substantial donation that would cover immediate repairs and provide necessary amenities, from proper heating to new bedding and furniture. But he didn't stop there. He pledged an ongoing fund to help the shelter not just survive, but thrive. When the news of Clint's support reached the residents and staff, it was met with an outpouring of gratitude. There were hugs, handshakes, and even tears as people realized the difference this would make. The once bleak prospect of the coming winter was now something they could face with warmth and comfort. The shelter's director thanked Clint, trying to put into words the significance of his gesture. For the first time in a long time, Hope Haven's future looked a little brighter. Clint's gesture resonated far beyond the walls of Hope Haven. News of his visit and the donation spread, inspiring local businesses, organizations, and individuals to step up and support the shelter. Restaurants began delivering food regularly. A nearby clinic offered free medical checkups, and even local artists volunteered their time, creating murals to brighten the shelter's walls. One construction company, inspired by Clint's example, offered to renovate the shelter free of charge, bringing it up to date and making it safer and more comfortable for residents. Volunteers arrived, not just to drop off supplies, but to lend their hands in repairing, painting, and improving the shelter's spaces. The support snowballed, creating a lasting impact that Clint himself might not have anticipated. As winter passed and the shelter continued to thrive, the community that had formed within Hope Haven grew stronger, filled with a renewed sense of purpose and belonging. Residents who once felt invisible now found themselves surrounded by compassion and understanding. Clint's visit became a cherished story at the shelter. It shows the kindness people are capable of and the unexpected ways that lives can change. His visit was not just a fleeting moment of fame or charity. It sparked a movement, one that reshaped Hope Haven and left a lasting legacy of hope and resilience. And true to his word, Clint didn't just vanish from their lives. He stayed in contact with the shelter, occasionally checking in and ensuring that they had the resources they needed. His involvement didn't end with a one-time donation. It was an enduring commitment that inspired everyone who had the privilege to witness it. Let's take a look at who Clint Eastwood really is. Who is Clint Eastwood? Clinton Eastwood Jr. was born on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. His father, Clinton Eastwood Sr., was a bond salesman and later a manufacturing executive, while his mother, Ruth Wood, was a housewife who later became an IBM clerk. Eastwood grew up during the Great Depression, which instilled in him a strong work ethic and a sense of resilience. He also developed an interest in music and mechanics. Although Eastwood wasn't academically inclined, he was naturally curious and loved working with his hands. After high school, Eastwood moved with his family to Seattle. There, he briefly attended Seattle University. He worked as a lumberjack and held various jobs, including being a steel worker and even a swimming instructor. In 1951, he joined the U.S. Army. He was stationed at Fort Ord in California, where he worked as a lifeguard and swimming instructor. His time in the military built his physical strength and his rugged appearance, though his natural charisma would later become essential parts of his on-screen persona. Clint's path to Hollywood began with a twist of fate when he returned to California. He was introduced to acting through a chance encounter at Universal Studios. Soon, he decided to pursue acting full-time, a decision that marked the start of an incredible journey. Eastwood's early years in Hollywood were not easy. He struggled to find roles, often relegated to small, uncredited parts. He received criticism for his rigid acting style and was often told that his features were too unconventional for the screen. Despite the setbacks, Eastwood refused to give up. He enrolled in acting classes to improve his craft. He continued to take small roles in low-budget films like Revenge of the Creature, which was released in 1955, and Tarantula in 1955. In 1958, he landed his first significant role in the television series Rawhide, cast as Rowdy Yates, a young brash cowboy. Although Eastwood's character was initially a secondary one, His commanding presence and natural charisma made him a standout. The success of Rawhide brought Eastwood some public recognition, but he was wary of being typecast as the typical Western hero. By the early 1960s, Eastwood was ready to seek out new and diverse roles that would allow him to break away from the limitations of his television persona. A turning point in Eastwood's career came when he was cast in Italian director Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, a trio of spaghetti westerns that included A Fistful of Dollars, released in 1964, For a Few Dollars More, released in 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which was released in 1966. Eastwood played a mysterious gunslinger known as the Man with No Name, whose demeanor and cold-blooded nature redefined the Western archetype. These films were initially met with mixed reviews in the United States, but became a cultural phenomenon, cementing Eastwood as an international star. Eastwood's portrayal of the Man with No Name showcased his acting range and created a new type of Western hero, an anti-hero who wasn't bound by traditional morals. These films broke new ground by portraying Western characters with a level of moral ambiguity that had rarely been seen before. The Dollars trilogy is still considered one of the most influential Western movies, and Eastwood's portrayal remains iconic, inspiring countless films, actors, and directors. Following the success of the Dollars trilogy, Eastwood returned to Hollywood with newfound stardom and credibility. His first major American role after his Italian success was in Hang 'em High, released in 1968, a Western film that became a hit and solidified his position in the U.S. market. Eastwood also continued to diversify his roles, starring in films like Coogan's Bluff, an action crime thriller, Where Eagles Dare, a war film released in 1968, and the musical Paint Your Wagon, released in 1969. These roles proved that Eastwood could excel in genres beyond Westerns. In 1971, Eastwood starred as Inspector Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry, a role that would become one of his most iconic characters. Dirty Harry was a no-nonsense, tough-as-nails cop who delivered justice on his terms, often bypassing bureaucratic red tape. The character struck a chord with audiences who were frustrated by rising crime rates and perceived leniency in law enforcement. Eastwood's portrayal of the morally ambiguous cop became an American icon and spawned 4 sequels. Dirty Harry's famous line, "Go ahead, make my day," remains one of the most quoted lines in film history.
Go ahead, make my day.
That same year, Eastwood made his directorial debut with Play Misty for Me, a psychological thriller about an obsessive fan. The film showcased Eastwood's talent behind the camera and marked the beginning of a dual career as both actor and director. As Eastwood continued to thrive as an actor, his career as a director blossomed in parallel. Known for his minimalistic and efficient directing style, Eastwood has a reputation for working quickly, often completing scenes in 1 or 2 takes. His approach focuses on simplicity, realism, and getting to the heart of a story without unnecessary embellishments. In 1973, he directed High Plains Drifter, a haunting Western that blended classic Western elements with psychological complexity. The Outlaw Josie Wales, released in 1976, and Pale Rider, released in 1985, followed, each of them offering fresh takes on the Western genre, with complex themes about justice, redemption, and survival. However, it was his 1992 film Unforgiven that truly established Eastwood as a director of great skill and vision. The film, which he also starred in, offered a deconstruction of the Western genre, exploring the brutal reality of violence and challenging the romanticized view of gunfighters. Unforgiven won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, and is widely considered one of the greatest Westerns ever made. The film was a turning point for Eastwood, demonstrating his ability to handle mature, morally complex narratives with subtlety and depth. Eastwood's directorial achievements continued with acclaimed films like Mystic River, a dark exploration of trauma and revenge, and $1 Million Baby, released in 2004, which later went on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. The film, a poignant boxing drama, showcased Eastwood's range as a filmmaker, balancing intense emotion with his signature understated style. His ability to handle a range of genres, war dramas, crime thrillers, and even sports films showed his versatility and established him as a major force in Hollywood. Eastwood's personal life has been eventful and, at times, controversial. He has been linked to numerous relationships and has fathered 8 children with 6 different women. His first marriage to Margaret Neville Johnson lasted from 1953 to 1984, during which they had 2 children, Kyle and Allison. Eastwood's most publicized relationship was with actress Sandra Locke, with whom he lived from 1975 to 1989. Their relationship ended in a highly publicized legal battle, with Locke filing a palimony lawsuit and later alleging that Eastwood had attempted to control her career. In 1996, Eastwood married news anchor Dina Ruiz, and they had a daughter, Morgan. The couple divorced in 2014, after which Eastwood has kept his relationships relatively private. Despite his complex personal life, Eastwood has maintained a close relationship with his children, several of whom have followed him into the entertainment industry. His family has described him as a dedicated, if occasionally distant, father, whose demanding career often kept him away from home. Eastwood has long been known for his libertarian views and his independent approach to politics. In 1986, he ran for mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California, and won. His 2 years tenure as mayor was marked by practical, common-sense governance. He focused on environmental issues, limiting tourism growth, and balancing development with conservation. His success as mayor earned him admiration and respect, and his political views have continued to draw attention. Eastwood has supported both Republican and Democratic candidates, reflecting his preference for pragmatism over party loyalty. He made headlines in 2012 when he delivered a speech at the Republican National Convention, where he addressed an empty chair symbolizing then-President Barack Obama. The moment, both praised and criticized, showcased his unconventional style and willingness to speak his mind. Eastwood's views are complex and don't fit neatly into traditional political categories. He has advocated for individual freedoms, expressed support for environmental conservation, and opposed excessive government intervention, making him a non-traditional figure in Hollywood's often liberal landscape. Clint Eastwood's impact on the film industry is undeniable. He has received numerous awards and honors throughout his career. He received 4 Academy Awards, 4 Golden Globe Awards, and the AFI Life Achievement Award. His films have grossed over $2 billion worldwide, making him one of the most successful actors and directors in Hollywood history. Eastwood's influence extends beyond his box office success. He has inspired generations of filmmakers and actors with his distinctive style and approach to storytelling. His work in the Western and action genres has left a lasting legacy. His contributions to cinema continue to be celebrated. Clint Eastwood's career spans over 6 decades. From his early days in television to his iconic roles in westerns and action films, Eastwood has consistently delivered memorable performances and compelling stories. His directorial achievements have further solidified his place in Hollywood history, making him a true icon of the film industry. Eastwood's legacy and donation to the homeless shelter makes us wonder, how does his commitment to giving back deepen the impact he's made beyond the screen? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.